The Darren Peterson of the show, Jason Anderson, out.
I hope he's listening.
Melvin Council, which is Darcy because you're a dog.
Trey White?
I'll go Trey White.
Or we might have to be like the Flory Badunga and Melvin Council show.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing about me is I'm very tall and athletic.
I was just going to say I'm throwing you lobs.
Yeah, me and Flory, a lot in common. Tall and athletic. Not really, but like in my dreams, I'm tall and athletic.
Shot blocker.
I'm a shot blocker. That's basically what I am. So we have a fun show today. Myron Metcalf of ESPN joins at 11:30. We're going to talk college basketball. A lot about K-State, the Jerome Tang saga. He was talking about it. He was right. I want to get more of his thoughts because he had some pretty strong thoughts in regards to that. So Myron Metcalf of ESPN joins at 11:30. Jack Johnson will join us live from spring training at noon. So Jack Johnson at noon, live from Surprise. Todd Lebo joins at 1. What should we do with Lebo? Fact, fiction? We'll find out.
I hope so.
We'll find out. We got to find a fourth person, though. It doesn't work with just you and Lebo. We need a fourth. Do we rouse Jason and say, hey, come on? I know Darren Peterson wouldn't do this, but what would Kobe do?
What would Kobe do?
What would Kobe do? I don't know. We'll get someone else. We'll get someone in sales. Sales, I know you're listening right now. Write a report of why you should be on Fact or Fiction.
The fourth person from sales that comes down here and talks to me will be on the show. It's like fourth caller. No, it's fourth salesperson.
Fourth salesperson. Walk on down. I like it. So, I was going to start with K-State, but we talked so much about it yesterday that I don't want to dive into it right away to start the show. I want to talk Chiefs to start the show because there's some interesting tidbits going around, and I think there's some discussion to be had, especially in regards to Tyreek Hill. I know we briefly hit on it yesterday. Tyreek Hill released from the Dolphins. He is free to sign with any team starting now. But also we know the injury that's there. He's not passing a physical right now. It might take a while. But I do want to get into the what a contract would look like. Does it make sense to bring him back? And is this just bringing the band back together? And if it is, well, is this a band that earned the right to go out on their own terms? So we'll talk about that. I want to get into free agency as well. We'll go through the list of running back free agents now that Seattle has said that they are not planning on tagging Kenneth Walker. They have other pressing players at more premium positions that they would like to use that on potentially. So, according to sources, the Seahawks unlikely to use tags on Kenneth Walker, which means bidding war, baby. Doesn't mean they can't retain him. Doesn't mean they can't bring him back. It just means that they're not going to use the franchise tag on him.
Do you know what that number would look like for the franchise tag? Because it's the median of the top 4 incomes at the running back position?
5, franchise tag, running back, salary
because
2026.
He's going to get paid in free agency, but they might not want to pay him, 16?
Looks like approximately 14.19 to 14.54.
I wonder if that's going to be his per year average on the market.
It'd be close. I mean, I was thinking more 12, but I do wonder how much the playoffs. Before the playoffs, I thought like 9. And then the playoffs happened. I was like, okay, maybe 12. But then the Super Bowl performance, you're like, is it going to be? He earned himself so much money, AAV, based on his playoff run.
Yeah, and he honestly priced himself out of Kansas City. Not that that was ever a realistic option because he's not the best receiving running back, but any chance that Kenneth Walker found his way to Kansas City, I think that Super Bowl performance kind of took him out of the running.
So the franchise tag is now available to use. The window opened today. February 17th. The franchise tag, that window opened. So if we see anything, we'll let you know. But again, it looks like Seattle not planning to use the franchise tag on Kenneth Walker. One player that might get the franchise tag used on him, which would, again, be, I don't know if detrimental's quite the perfect terminology there, but Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a guy that might get the franchise tag.
Is there any chance that if the Jets do put the franchise tag on Breece Hall, he just doesn't show up? I think he's done. He wanted to get traded at the deadline last year.
Yeah. So, I want to get in the running back free agents. Those two big names that have been talked about. And then the edge defenders. Who's out there? What's viable? What's realistic? What makes sense? And then how does that affect the draft? Chiefs drafting at 9. How do the free agents, if at all, place a premium on what the Chiefs should potentially try and target? An extra emphasis at 9. So we'll get into all of that. But again, I want to start first with the Tyreek Hill saga, the situation, where it's currently at. I know this is going to be popular to half the fan base, unpopular to the other half of the fan base. I get this. It's like politics. You're never going to please everyone. Half's going to love it, half's going to hate it, no in between. Tyreek Hill, should he be someone the Chiefs covet in free agency? I say yes. I get it. A lot of people will say no. A lot of people will say Sterling is going to be 32. He's coming off of a brutal knee injury. He left to go to Miami for the money. He had some off-the-field situations.
Both here and in Miami. Like, let's not get it twisted. He had the same issues here.
And then the final one will be, is this just bringing the band back together? The reason why I say yes, again, I'm not saying I'm not saying overpay. I'm not saying you have to be the number one bidder on the open market. I don't think his market's going to be crazy for the reasons I just listed. If he thinks he's still a $25, $30 million a year wide receiver, well, then that's a non-starter, right? We're living in the world of 2026, of a guy in his 30s coming off of a major injury. Every team knows this. This is not just him. This is not just the Chiefs. Every team knows this. I don't see the Tyreek Hill market being flush. I don't see the Tyreek Hill market being this market that is just, we have to have him. We have to have him. I think it'll be a very finite market. I think it's going to be a market that the Chiefs will be able to play in that sandbox. I think you are looking at maybe, and I could be way off. This is my thoughts. If you told me you could sign him 2 for 30, 15 mil AAV, 2 for 30, I'm all the way in. I get right now, you have to manipulate the cap and do some things. I'm not arguing that. But I'm just saying the actual value, that is something that I would be very intrigued by.
I mean, you'd definitely be getting a discount if you got him for $15 million a year, but he is on the wrong side of 30, coming off of a dislocated knee and a torn ACL, and he still has to get another surgery this offseason.
Yeah, he might miss some regular season. Yes, I'm not arguing that. I agree.
But that's why if you did sign him for 2 years, $30 million, it's a very similar contract to what you gave out to Jalen Moore, you would be able to maybe get at least a year of a bounce-back Tyreek Hill. My concern is that we talk about how the Chiefs are comfortable with their own guys. They always dip back into the well. They find guys that know the system and that Andy Reid trusts and is comfortable with. And I honestly would see this as the Chiefs almost waving the white flag, where in 2026, there's a chance that they bring back Travis Kelce at 37. They bring back Tyreek Hill at 32. They bring back Kareem Hunt also in his 30s.
Sure.
This isn't 2018. At what point are we going to give Pat younger players to work with for the next 4 or 5 seasons? This isn't a 2-year window where you maximize this Patrick Mahomes 2 years and then afterwards you can kind of rebuild. No, this would be the rebuilding year to set Mahomes up for the next 5 or 6.
I don't argue any of those points, and that is the pushback that I think in the side you should be on. I think that's 1,000% the side the majority of people will be and should be on, is you bottomed out last year. You have the 9th overall draft pick. Your cap situation's not great. Is this the year to get everything right? Is this the year to say, all right, it's 2022 all over again? Do you trade Trent McDuffie? Do you draft someone at 9 who can be an impact player? Do you get your cap situation correct? Moving on from Juwan Taylor. Maybe you move on from both Leo and Drew to try and get your cap right. Maybe you move on from Brian Cook. You probably need to sign Jalen Watson so you at least have some sort of semblance back there. But the point remains, is this the offseason that you get your cap right? I think that the majority of people should, and my brain says that's the smart move. But I'm going to be dumb here. And I'm admitting I'm being dumb here. Like, I'm fully laying out the groundwork of saying I am probably on the wrong side here. Because the Royals tried doing something similar by bringing the band back or keeping them together, and then eventually it blew up, and then, okay, well, that didn't really go out the way we all thought. But if there's ever a team, and I don't want to say go out on their own terms, but have one last chance at something, wouldn't this Chiefs team be it? Wouldn't the Chiefs team of Patrick, Travis, Tyreek, Chris, Andy? Like, if there was ever a team that deserved the right, and maybe that's too strong, and maybe people will just say, no, it's the Chiefs, no players above the organization, does not matter. I don't care. We don't talk about the past. That happened. We remember it. We talk about it, but we're not going to live in it. If that's your motto, that's your thought process, fine. I respect it. But if there ever was a group of guys that you'd like to see get back together and maybe earn that right to go out for one last season, it might be these guys, which is why I say if Tyreek Hill would sway Travis Kelce to come back for one more year, it's a little 2-for-1 action.
And then you got to pay Travis Kelce.
Sure.
And he's what, 10, 12 per?
Ish. I would assume so.
I mean, because he's not going to take $6 million, but maybe he
and who
takes...
knows what he? And who knows? By the way, we have when you're marrying a billionaire, but you also want to be representative of the market.
And he doesn't want to do that to the younger tight ends that are trying to get paid, which...
It does play a factor for the rest of the tight ends.
Which, good for him. But, I would be lying if I said that I didn't like the thought of Tyreek Hill returning, but I think the price would have to be right. And something that we haven't really talked about yet is, do you want to put Tyreek Hill and Rashee Rice in the same wide receiver room?
Well, I'll say this. Tyreek Hill on the field is one of the hardest workers we've ever seen.
Of course. And he
There's
also
no
got
denying
arrested going to the game last year in Miami. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but on the field, he's one of the hardest workers we have ever seen.
Yes. He's also one of the best talents we've ever seen.
There's no denying. Well, but when he came out of college, yes, he was talented, but
he wasn't what he is now. He turned himself into the elite wide receiver that he is.
Correct. In the words of Jalen Ramsey, he was a punt returner, a Pro Bowler as a returner. And he grew into, I think at his peak, a top 3, top 2 receiver in the entire NFL. At his peak.
What would you say about the Chiefs if they did this? Because I would almost start to question their development? Because what does it say that they keep going back and getting guys that have shown that they can win in the NFL and have shown that they're very good, but ever since, Tyreek Hill left, they haven't really been able to develop a wide receiver. They still have leaned on Travis Kelce to carry. What does that say about Andy Reid and his staff that they can't develop the next guy?
Well, they tried. They're redoing the entire coaching staff by bringing back Bieniemy, but they've also redone
Another guy they brought
the
back.
wide receiver coaching staff. Like, I think that was the admission that, hey, this wasn't working. We've invested too much talent into this room. We need to switch it up. We need change. And that's fine. I'm trying to think of a band that this really works for, but a band that went through, let's say, if Skid Row. Yeah, Skid Row's probably past their prime. But Sebastian Bach still has pipes. You're telling me if Skid Row and the members said, hey, Sebastian, we want you back to sing with us. Let's have one last trip around the continent of the United States of America. I wouldn't buy tickets. You bet your ass I'm getting tickets. You're telling me you wouldn't do that? I'm doing that. Even though I know, hey, it might not be as great as it was in the 90s. It's still going to kick ass.
And I almost wonder if
they deserve it. Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs deserve it.
I almost wonder if we'll look back at this situation if they do end up signing him and almost feel like it wasn't the right move, because Tyreek Hill's legacy in Kansas City is pretty set in stone right now. Now, there is a portion of the fan base that was very vocal and critical of the way that he left, choosing the money. Can't fault him for that. But I almost wonder if he came back at this age with the skill set diminishing, because he's not the same player that he was 3 years ago. He's still a good player, but he's not, 2022 Tyreek Hill.
Sure.
That was a beast in Miami. I almost wonder if that would almost ruin his legacy to a certain extent if he's not the same guy.
So I've pushed back on the narrative that he is going to be, again, we'll find out after injury, but I'm even expecting him to be, let's just say 90%, 85% of what he once was, especially speed-wise, right? Is that fair? That seem realistic? 85%?
Would you say 85% in week 10 of this year? Or
Sure. Yeah, week 10.
Okay.
Fine.
So you think this year he can be up to 85, 90%?
And the point I make is 85% of Tyreek Hill is the best receiver on this Chiefs team.
But that's a pretty low bar. I don't disagree.
I think Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are fine wide receivers. I think they were wide receivers 2s and 3s.
True, but they weren't last year.
They weren't last year. And so for me, when I look at Tyreek Hill and what he can do, one, I think his work ethic is through the roof. One that I think that the wide receivers need to see, especially Rashee Rice,
Xavier Worthy, Jalen Royals.
So I think there's at least something there. Whatever your thoughts are, I think there's at least a positive as far as his football IQ. Tyreek's football IQ is astronomical. It's ridiculous. And so I think there is a scenario where that in and of itself makes a lot of sense. But you're not bringing him as a coach. He has to produce. And this is the point I'm trying to make here. Everyone keeps saying, well, once Tyreek Hill loses his speed, he's done. And I have argued that time and time again. That guy understands space. He understands when to slow, when to speed up. He understands the nuances. It's not just top-end speed. Yes, it's quickness. That's what I think stood out more than anything else than top-end speed. It was quickness and shiftiness. But he has some of the Travis Kelce, where it's the shoulder shakes, it's the shimmies, it's the route running. I've always pushed back on once Tyreek Hill's speed goes, he's done. I firmly disagree with that. He's a guy who I think will age fairly well. And I think I'm fairly alone in this. And now we have a sales guy walking over here. He's trying to talk to you to see if he can be number 4 for Fact or Fiction. But that's the point I'm making here is I literally think that he is a guy who will age much better than the majority of people think he will.
When his use of leverage, this guy knows how to play the position, and to his credit, he turned himself into that player. I don't think when the speed goes, he's going to be unplayable. he's not going to be the same, but a lot of players aren't their same when they're on the other side of 30.
Again, I might be wrong here. I may be on the wrong side of history. I am intrigued about Tyreek Hill. I would take a good look at bringing him back. I do think that, fair or not, again, people can argue and have their own thoughts, and you might not be wrong. I've said I'm probably on the wrong side here. But if there ever was a team that deserved one last chance to try and make something happen, it would be Tyreek, Travis, Patrick, Andy, and the like. That's all I'm saying. One more time.
So is your harsh line in the sand $15 million? Would you do it for $17 a year?
Oh, man, that's pretty.
So that's too much.
I think 15 is
Okay.
pretty firm because again, that first year, it's almost like a 10 first year, 20 second year is what you're basically going with because of the injury concerns of when he's going to come back.
I think if you pay more than 15, we got to have a conversation.
I think you have a real hard.
And even 15, I'm looking at how you're going to fit that under the cap, and with all the other needs,
With Edge, which is the conversation I'm going to get into on the next side of the break. Because on the other side of the break, I'm going to get into some of the free agents that are out there. Running back, defensive end. Those main two positions, I think, are the ones that we need to take a good, strong look at. I feel like the offensive line, for the most part, we feel comfortable with. Right? Defense, for the most part, outside of Edge, I think defensive line, we have Chris Jones, you have Omar Norman-Lott, and you'll probably have a big body else, a Mike Pennell-ish type. They'll be your top three. Carl Loftus on one side, but Edge is another spot that I feel like that we really need to hit on. When it comes to safety, well, we'll see what happens with Brian Cook, but you have Shamari Connor and you have Jaden Hicks. When it comes to cornerback, a lot of ways to go about it, and until they either extend Watson or trade or extend McDuffie, you're kind of in no man's land talking about it. So I want to hit on edge and running back and those free agent markets on the other side. And does that affect the draft process or draft idea based on who the free agents are? We'll take a break, come back. The Zone, Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome to the Zone, Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sterling Holmes, Michael Darcy. All right, we're talking Chiefs right now. We'll talk a lot of college basketball at 11:30 with Myron Metcalf of ESPN. Get into the whole Jerome Tang versus K-State. Will that be the new slogan? Tang versus K-State?
It is so. I don't know if you saw the tweet. I think.
Oh yeah, baby.
Thamel put it out.
Pete Thamel. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
It's impressive, right?
So good.
I'll say this: Jerome Tang does not have the Chiefsaholic lawyer.
No, he does not. Well, I would hope not. They're very different. Very different things.
I mean, the slogans and the catchphrases that were being dropped. It was a little over the top cheesy by Chiefsaholic. We can say that. And then the one that was said yesterday by Jerome Tang's lawyer was a bar.
I laughed. I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
That's strong.
I was scared. And I was reading it.
That it was strong. So we'll talk about that. Jack Johnson live from Surprise. We'll talk some Royals with him, some spring training at noon, then Lebo at 1. So going back to Chiefs. We talked about Tyreek Hill in the first half hour. Should the Chiefs look at bringing him back? I say yes. I don't know if I swayed Darcy. I think he's more on team. This should be a rebuilding year.
I could be swayed. I could be persuaded. But
I like suede, as if like suede shoes.
I would have to see what the contract looked like, and I would also have to see what else they did in free agency to address some of the other needs. And
Sure.
We'll talk about that now. But I wouldn't hate it if the price was right.
So let's go through the running back market now, okay? So what I'm going to do, this might be a little difficult for you, Darcy, but we're going to try it. It's going to be a fun exercise. I'm going to go through a list of the 2026 running back free agents, all right? And we will go through and rank our top 3.
Okay.
I think our top 3 might be similar, so if they're all the same, we could go top 5 after that and get down to like maybe the secondary market, the primary 3, the secondary 3, and then the tertiary 3. What I'm going to do, by the way, is give you the AAV, the market value on a per-year basis of said running back. Okay. So this is Spotrac or Spotrac, your choice on pronunciation. This is what their recommendation is and what their calculations are for the AAV, okay? So take that into consideration. For example, if a guy's worth, 13, but you can get a lesser player for 2, well, where's the value fall in?
And usually you see Spotrac is very accurate. It's good, but sometimes they're a couple $1 million short.
Or high on some of these. So let's get into it. Najee Harris, $3 million a year. Yeah. Travis Etienne, let's say $7 million a year. Etienne, $7 million a year. Javonte Williams, $7 million a year. Rico Dowdle, $6.5 million a year. Breece Hall, this one seems low. We'll say $11 million a year. I might do some of my own math on this one because I feel like some of these are low. Kenneth Walker, $11 million a year. Any other names you should throw out there?
Isaiah Pacheco's a free agent.
Don't you dare. Rashad White. This one says $7 million a year. That seems a little high. I'll say $6 million a year for the sake of this conversation. Okay, Rashad White, $6 million a year. Tyler Algier, $2 million a year.
Wow,
which might be the deal. And then Pacheco, by the way, Pacheco's AAV. You want to take a guess at what they have Pacheco's AAV at?
Oh man, 2.4 million.
4.4. Seems high.
Hope he finds a home.
Seems high. All right. So of that list of players,
is J.K. Dobbins on that list?
J.K. Dobbins is on that list, and he is 2.5.
I mean, J.K. Dobbins is half of what you'd pay Isaiah Pacheco, according to Spotrac.
Yeah, but let's be real. When was the last time J.K. Dobbins finished a season.
I think he had more yards in fewer games than Pacheco did.
Okay, I'm also not surprised by that. Let's be.
I'm not arguing.
Player.
He's always hurt, but he's always productive when he is on the field.
J.K. Dobbins played 15 games in 2020, no games in 21, 8 games in 22, 1 game in 23, 13 games in 24, 10 games in 25.
He'll give you 6 strong games in 2026.
Oh, yeah, he had 772 yards and 4 touchdowns in 10 games last year. I mean,
he was great.
There's no denying he's a very good player, but at some point the injuries will have to, you would imagine, catch up to him.
Yeah, and I remember the Chiefs had him in for a workout a couple of years ago, and he ended up not signing. But as much as he would bring, he's going to play, 8, 10 games, if that? It just doesn't.
It does not make, in my opinion, a lot of sense.
You're signing a higher ceiling Isaiah Pacheco.
So I just didn't even throw him. That's why I didn't bring him up. So of those 3 names, we'll do our top 3 first.
Do you want me to go with 1 or 3 first?
Let's go with 3 first.
Factoring into cost, and I'm not going to say realistic, but I'll say Breece Hall is 3. I think that cost is a little high, but I think if you had the opportunity to sign Breece Hall, given his skill set, he would fit this offense so well. He's my 3rd back.
ETN was my 3rd back. I think the price is great. He might go for more than that, but also Jacksonville somewhat impacted his price by, at one point, having Tank Bigsby ahead of him, and then they put in the who was the rookie this year? Tootin ahead of him, and then he got more of an opportunity, and he had a really nice season. Let me go ahead and just pull up the amount of receptions he had as well, because I do think that that is a factor. He is not what Urban Meyer said about him. Yeah, we'll line him up in the slot. He's a slot receiver too. No, stop that.
Do you want to go on that rant real quick?
No, I did that last time. If you want that rant, check out, was that yesterday or Friday's show? We're done with that rant. Travis Etienne last year had 1,100 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. He had 36 receptions, 292 yards, and 6 touchdowns receiving. 13 total touchdowns.
Wow. That's a lot of production.
And the year prior was the year that Jacksonville and he was bad. 3.7 yards a carry, 558 yards. That was the year when they basically said, you're behind Tank, and then they drafted Bajal Tootin. Well, then Tank went to the Eagles. Tootin was a rookie. Etienne took his job back and ran away with it. This was the best year. His rookie year was really good too. But touchdown-wise, this was his best year. 13 total touchdowns. I think Etienne's my number 3. I think the cost of Spotrac's a little low. I think he's probably more in that 10-ish, 9-ish million a year range. But he is a good receiver as well. So my number 3 is Etienne. Who's your number 2?
Number 2, there's a lot of ways you can go. I mean, Kenneth Walker would be number 2, but I don't think that's realistic. I would actually say someone like Javonte Williams would be a really good signing. I think he showed you last year with Dallas that clearly the Broncos don't know how to use running backs. And, I mean, if you added Javonte Williams to this room, they already are better and more explosive than they have been in years. So I think for the price, Javonte Williams is probably my number 2.
So Javonte Williams it's weird. His receiving numbers have bounced all over the place. He's been very inefficient as a receiver. One year he had 52 receptions for 340 yards. Then he had 47 receptions for 228 yards. Last year at 35 for 137 yards receiving. Very inefficient as a pass catcher. But last year, are you buying high? That's my concern with Javonte Williams. Are you buying high? The Cowboys' offensive line has traditionally been very good, especially in run games. I don't know if that's the way I'd go. I would be nervous that you are buying the high season of Javonte Williams. That would be my concern, dude. So for me, he would be in my transparency if the Chiefs brought back Kareem Hunt, keep out running back for so many years. I wonder if this is the big switch. We saw this in the past. So they might go all in this time on. I know the cap situation. I know there's a lot of things they need to get figured out beforehand. But I do wonder if they go, okay, we are tired of this. We're spending $10 million AAV, $12 million AAV on Breece Hall, ETN, or Kenneth Walker, and just forget about it.
That's a good point, and it's usually after that, disaster of a season, whether it was the Super Bowl and the offensive line collapsing multiple times. They have thrown resources at the offensive line, and even they did it to the defensive line a couple years ago. And
yeah.
I do think that Brett Veach probably watched the way that this season went, and it was a good point to bring up the receivers that they drafted, to throw resources at that. Maybe they do find a way to throw $10 to $12 million a year at a running back. I think that's the way the NFL is going. I would not be surprised whatsoever if they find a way to make it work.
I mean, again, this is very simplistic, and this is just strictly off the top of my head, but would you rather have Brian Cook for $15 million a year? Or would you rather have Breece Hall for $12 million a year? Kenneth Walker for $12 million a year?
Breece Hall, it's not even a question. I think Brian Cook's a fine player. I think he also showed you the contract years undefeated. Would you pay $15 million for Brian Cook?
Probably not.
His spot tracks had him at like 14.6.
And I think he gets that. I think it's like a 4 for $60.
I would never do that. Thank you for your service. I wouldn't pay Jalen Watson either. That's my hot take. Seren.
Roll with